You know, January is the absolute worst time to be uploading videos on YouTube. It's when all the ads have gone away, people are off back in work and school and stuff like that. And typically I've never taken a break in January, but I figured this year we'd try it out because I've seen things like Caddy Sleeps and even my friend Pragmagic doing compilation videos that people seem to really enjoy. And I get asked a lot, why haven't you done this custom art video yet? Why haven't you done that custom art video yet? And I have. So I figured we're going to start January easy and we're going to do a compilation video of all of the Digimon Frontier custom art that we've done on this channel. You're going to see lots of different versions of Karn in this video, but present Karn is going to come in like Christmas spirits, the ghost of January present, to connect each of these videos together. Some of you will have seen all of these, but I bet a lot of you haven't because of course they're older videos and people have only seen some videos on this channel. So I hope you enjoy, and let's get to it. This video has required 5 artists to do 4 original art pieces each, resulting in 20 pieces of art. We're going to be corrupting the human and beast spirits of fire, light, ice, wind, and thunder. I focused on these because they are kind of the main element for each of the Frontier kids, and seeing as how it was only one element of Koichi, darkness, that got corrupted, I figured it made more sense if we just corrupted one of each of the other kids. Plus, like I say, this took 20 pieces of art. There just wasn't time or, frankly, budget to do the other spirits, but if you do want to see earth, wood, water, and steel in videos, I definitely plan to do that, just not this month. So, without further ado, let's begin with Tommy's corrupted ice spirits, who were commissioned by All Trade, aka Morally Gary. And this human spirit of ice that you can see here gives birth to the corrupted hybrid Chenumon. Chenumon, as its name implies, comes from the Chenu, mythological creatures, evil man-eating ice giants of northern Wabanaki legends. A Chenu was once a human being who either became possessed by an evil spirit or committed a terrible crime, especially cannibalism or not giving food to someone in desperate need of food, causing their heart to turn to ice, which I think makes a perfect reference point for a corrupted human spirit, but specifically of course for Tommy and his spirit of ice. I especially like as Tommy's normal human spirit, Chakmon, is this little cute snow bear, his corrupted ice spirit becoming a large, twisted ice humanoid monster, but with a worn pelt of a Grismon, the de facto Bearmon rookie, which is actually a possible line on Chakmon's recently announced dim card, acting as its allusions to the more bestial side of the Chenu, as well as cementing Chenumon in Chakmon's evolution family. Moving over to the corrupted beast spirit, the icy monster All Trade created is Eiriasmon. Eiriasmon takes its name from the Eiriak of Inuit mythology, a shape-shifting human caribou hybrid born when people who ventured too far from home became lost between worlds. Very similar to a human from the real world straying into the digital world. The Eiriak hunts and kidnaps people, only letting the kidnapped person find their way home if children can convince it to do so. I love how bestial and creepy this art is, but I also love that All Trade managed to keep the humanity inside this beast. It looks so good alongside Chenumon and works super well as part of Tommy's corrupted spirits. Moving over to Zoe, we're going to be corrupting those fairies and birds, and we're beginning with the corrupted human spirit of wind, which will lead to Zoe becoming Kamaimon, drawn by Kapni. I gave Kapni the jumping off point of evil pixies and the wind yokai Kamaitachi that rides on dust devils in the Japanese Alps, working in groups of 3s to attack people, but ultimately leaving no trace of wounds, a devious type of attack. I just really adore this design, feeling like an excellent dark inverse to Kazemon with the broken fairy wings. But the extra details I like are the spirit of wind insignia on the shoulder pad and the vulture-like headpiece, which ties into the Kamaitachi's vulture-like attacks. And for our corrupted beast spirit of wind, who Kapni took inspiration from the red-bearded vulture and European dragons to make what I have called Vultudramon. This dark side to Shatumon I think works excellently, really doubling down on the bird aesthetics of Shatumon, but stripping almost all of its humanity, leaving behind this terrifying carrion bird dragon. You can also definitely see how it's related to Kamaimon too, with the same chest piece and wind spirit insignia shoulder pads, but now fully given into the monstrous beast inside it. I also like how it has a similar design trajectory as Duskmon and Velgamon, who of course inspired this video. Now it's time for my fellow bug lover and fellow big boy JP, and we're gonna have some fun with his corrupted human spirit of thunder. I commissioned Dry for this one and told him given Beetlemon looks so much like Kamen Riders, such as Gatak, we had to base the human spirit on Kamen Riders such as another Agito, and so we arrived at Kuro Kabumon. Its name of course coming from Kuro meaning dark or black, and Kabu coming from Kabuto Mushi, the same type of rhinoceros beetle Kabuterimon gets its name from, but Kabuto also meaning a type of helmet worn by various types of Japanese soldiers, but notably the samurai, which also heavily influenced this Digimon's design. For an arm, it has a weapon inspired by the Kusarigama, and a scorpion stinger that he can whip around and extend, stunning whoever it hits with blackout lightning. Scorpions are often used as dark riders in Kamen Rider, but this idea also stems from Scorpiomon, who was a major inspiration for our corrupted beast spirit of thunder, who I have named Raijumon, and it looks like this. Raijumon is based as Scorpiomon, as Scorpiomon somewhat feels like a bug equivalent to Skull Greymon. Obviously scorpions are arachnids, and JP's Digimon are more bug and beetle themed, but in the world of Digimon, scorpions and beetles and bugs and stuff are all in basically the same field, or at least the same wheelhouse of evolution. Scorpiomon also has an attack called Blackout, which, well, the absence of electricity is a blackout, which ironically can often be caused by thunderstorms. It just sounded too perfect not to use. Electricity used not as a source of energy, but as a stunner, a tool of assassination. Raijumon gets its name from Raiju, the thunder beast, but actually looks pretty similar to, but Raiju actually has been said to resemble dozens of different animals. It's a companion to Raijin the thunder god, and according to legend, one stormy night, the samurai Tachibana Dosetsu was taking shelter. He drew his sword just in time when the lightning bolt was about to strike. The clash between his sword and the lightning-adorned Raiju smoked up the environment. Once the smoke cleared, the samurai saw a dead Raiju on the ground. Raiju dying in the legend, adding to this kind of like corrupted and skull theme we've got going on here. But in addition to Scorpiomon, Dry also took inspiration from ancient Beatmon, which you can see much more prominently in the bottom half of this design. But Dry wasn't done there, as I also got him to design the corrupted spirits of light. Starting with the corrupted human spirit of light, which became Drogmon. Dry's thought process was the balance of light and darkness in Koichi and Koji, Wolfmon and Loemon. While Wolfmon has two swords, Loemon has a shield and a lance. However, the corrupted darkness, Duskmon, uses two swords. Logically, corrupted light should then use a shield and lance. If the whole deal with the light spirit is speed and agility, an unstoppable force, its corrupted version should be the opposite. A heavy tank which complements the shield it wears nicely, an immovable object. And if the corrupted beast spirit of darkness goes from a lion to a crow, then the light spirit should be far from a wolf. Here we get this tanky, defensive, corrupted spirit, a juggernaut inspired by corrupted paladins, and Skull Bellucimon and Rhino skeletons. I gave it the name Drogmon to reference Garurumon and Velgamon's name etymologies, both being from Norse mythology. And this then leads us nicely to the other Norse-named corrupted beast spirit of light, who I have dubbed Fenrirmon. I named it Fenrirmon because Fenrir is a notable quadruped in Norse mythology, the son of the god Loki and the giantess Angbode? I've definitely pronounced that wrong. The gods of Asgard even raising Fenrir to make sure he didn't wreak havoc across the 9 worlds, but they failed. He grew quickly and caused so much chaos that they decided to chain him up. But the design for Fenrirmon was actually based on what I believe might be Garurumon's Skull Greymon equivalent. As I covered in my Digimon Adventure Dark Evolutions video, which springboarded this whole video series, there is a card above me right now, because I just think Skull Bellucimon would work so well alongside Skull Greymon. Skull Bellucimon is based on the Bellucitherium, an ancient rhinoceros-like animal which, while Skull Bellucimon doesn't reflect that aspect that much, Bellucimon itself does. Fenrirmon then echoing the specific aesthetic of the Dark Digivolution Skull Greymon, as well as other Skull Digimon like Skull Bellucimon and Skull Mammon. I gave it the name Fenrirmon because there's really no Rhino or Bellucitherium equivalent in Norse mythology, so I just wanted to base it on something Norse, and I guess the most prominent quadrupedal kind of like destructive force in Norse mythology is Fenrir. Plus I'm a big Final Fantasy VII fan. But I do feel like this horned beast down on all fours does feel like a nice parallel to the son of Loki, Loki himself often depicted as wearing horns. But some of Dry's design was also inspired by the biblical Behemoth, so we could definitely call it Behemothmon instead. And finally, the corrupted flame spirits designed by HLR Art. We begin with the human spirit of flame, which which will become Chirufemon. HLR took loose inspiration from the Chirufi, a kind of evil creature made of lava from the Mapuche mythology of Chile, which is one of the native groups from where HLR is actually from. I am a huge fan of artists folding in their own culture, history, and traditions into their art pieces, and it's something I'd like to do a lot more of going forward. HLR made the lava and fire green to borrow some of the evil aesthetics from famous villains like Maleficent, and its armor is made of obsidian. I absolutely adore how different this corrupted spirit feels from a Gunimon. Instead of the noble armored protector you can trust, we get this oozing, disgusting green lava creature who you would not want to get anywhere near. It almost looks radioactive or biohazardous in addition to its boiling lava. The etymology I think also works great, as a Gunimon or Agnimon's name comes from the Hindu and Vedic god of fire as well as the guardian of humanity, and so in turn Chirufemon gets to have its etymology come from Mapuche or Chilean mythology. And moving over to our corrupted beast spirit of flame, we have Moitatamon. HLR based this of course on the Moitata, a fire serpent from Guarani mythology, from the Amazon region. It's like a guardian of the forest and can and will kill anyone that damages the forest. I adore how we get an original type of creature here for Tokoya's corrupted beast spirit, but it feels also so in line with something like Skull Greymon or Skull Bellucimon, just like Fenrirmon and the others. Moitatamon is just pure distilled beast. It's incredible to think a human could even become so corrupted as to be it. And it of course is getting its name again from a culture's mythology, which feels very true to the naming conventions of Frontier. HLR also made a blue variant saying, and I quote, "In my head, a natural coloured fire is evil and corrupted. I guess it comes from watching Azula's blue firebending in Avatar." So there's the Avatar reference. I've never watched Avatar, I'm so sorry.
What's wrong with you?
I've seen the Blue People one, I've just not seen the anime. You guys watching Moon Knight? A Moon Knight reference. What a cool guy. Also, I want to make a note. I called it Moitatamon in that video because of an error. HLR basically had a typo in his message to me. It's actually Boitatamon based on the Boitata. Anyway, got a really good response on that video. But next up, one of my favorite Digimon Frontier custom art videos we've ever done, purifying the Digimon Frontier evil spirits. Yes, we are purifying those evil Frontier spirits. I want to give a huge shout out to Weirdomon, SomeGuy944, HLR Art, and Dry. And if you want more custom art Digimon videos just like this one, please do make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you can. It's a super YouTuber-y thing to ask, but it legitimately does help the channel and means we can do more of these things, so thanks. Now, to be 100% technical, the evil spirits in Digimon Frontier are not corrupted in the same way the Spirit of Darkness was for Koichi. Instead, the spirits were activated, if you will, with the souls that Cherubimon gathered. As such, an argument could definitely be made that if a human were to spirit evolve for purposes of good with the spirits of steel, wood, earth, and water, they would probably just look the same as Mercurymon, Arbamon, Grottemon, and Ranamon. But for the purposes of this video, I decided it would make sense that if these evil spirits were to spirit evolve with a good-natured heroic child, or any human, that would affect the form that they would ultimately become. But not drastically. It wouldn't be the difference between Duskmon and Loemon, but more that the spirits there, so the human spirit of steel for instance, would still be what caused that form to happen, but it would look different. It would look more heroic or be more humanoid. If we look at pretty much every Digidestined spirit evolution in Frontier, you can see how a human might fit inside that form. But if you look at something like the beast spirit Sephirothmon, yeah, we're gonna need to change that design up for even a child to fit inside there. This then also gives us another great opportunity, one I personally think we were robbed of with Frontier, and that is to have the redemption arc of those initial bully kids actually getting to assume Digimon forms. As such, I have paired them off based on their name etymologies, as I believe those etymologies may act as a clue to perhaps Frontier even intending them to become the evil spirits in an original draft. The bespectacled Tepe will be paired with Steel, his name meaning iron, sage, soldier, and wise man, which, yeah, matches up perfectly with the spirit descendant of ancient wise Mon. Chiaki's name can mean thousand, but also light, sparkle, crystal clear, shining, and crystal ball. Plus, she's the girl of the group and Digimon can be quite predictable in that aspect, so she will get the water spirit. Katsuharu's name can mean victory or win, but also meadow, field, or plain, places where you might find grass, plants, even trees, so he gets the spirit of wood. And then Teruo gets left with earth because he's the last one. Soz. So let's begin with Teppei, who I commissioned Weirdomon to create heroic spirit evolutions for. Teppei, as the human spirit of steel, becomes Futuremon. This Robocop and Terminator design from Weirdomon is badass, and does the core conceit of this video, taking the elements of the original spirit but reinterpreting them for these new heroic forms, even giving us glimpses of the human underneath, just like in Agunimon or Kazemon. Futuremon gets its name from both its design inspirations, the Terminator and Robocop, being futuristic robots, but also the idea of future sight, being able to predict the future, perhaps by using something like a scrying mirror. It also wields a shotgun, because eat cold steel? Then Teppei's beast form is Kabamon. This of course comes from the beast spirit of steel, and as such we can see the many eyes of Sephirothmon, its mouth, and more represented here. Sephirothmon ties into the idea of the Kabbalah, aka the Tree of Life, so Kabamon continues that idea in Unity. However, as this is a beast, it cannot fully shake off the dark side of the spirit of steel's nature. As such, Weirdomon took inspiration from typical goat imagery in Judeo-Christian mythology, in which a goat or scapegoat is tied heavily to the idea of sin, and even Baphomet. However, despite the unfavourable leaning in scripture towards the goat, it also represents strong-mindedness, singleness of purpose, and leadership, rather than following, which might make Teppei the surprising leader of this team. Oh, but you know I couldn't just do human and beast spirits for this video, I had to fully commit and full send. Surprise, shawty! We're also giving all of these human and beast spirit purifications their own hybrid fusion form, just like Aldermon and Beowulfmon. We did also consider the Z spirits and like a Susanumon alternative, but that adds a lot of interesting lore complications that we'll think about for a future video. So the fusion spirit of steel is Taliesimon. This futuristic musician shreds out on its goat axe to entertain its friends and strike fear into the heart of its foes. Of course, the steel strings of the electric guitar are a factor here, but we also get to combine that cool robotic imagery with the goat and satanic vibes to create a true rock star. Taliesimon gets its name from Taliesin, the chief of bards in Celtic mythology, who was a real person, though truth and myth have become interwoven. He was renowned for his music and his wisdom, a great fit for the part spirit, part human Teppei steel fusion. I decided to use Celtic mythology for the name because it helps tie in some of that old goat imagery, as the Celts viewed them as symbols of fertility and virility, but also because Aldermon's name comes from Indian mythology, Beowulfmon's name comes from Anglo-Saxon mythology, so I wanted to represent another pantheon. Moving over to Katsuharu, I commissioned some guy 944 to give him the human spirit of wood spirit evolution, Atismon. I love the transformation to a more humanoid appearance here, keeping the core elements of the spirit, but making it a wholly new form. Atismon gains 2 big bazookas it can use to fire out huge seeds at terrifying speeds. A much more humanoid face with a large dome hat, which you can see is adapted from Arbamon, and is even adorned with the spirit of wood symbol. It gets its name from Attis, a Greek and Roman figure revered as a vegetation deity, tied into the concept of death and resurrection, similar to how the fruits of the earth die in the winter and rise again in spring. I chose a Roman figure because the word arbor has Roman origin. Another reason I picked Attis was the fact in the Metamorphoses, no, not that one, by the Roman poet Ovid. Attis turned from a human into a pine tree, which feels very appropriate for Katsuharu becoming the human wood spirit. Then moving over to the beast spirit of wood is Vindramon. This of course is very close to Petaldramon, but I wanted to ensure it felt more humanoid. Of course it's a beast spirit, but again folding in the believability that a human could be inside of these forms makes the premise of this video work better. I settled on the name Vindramon because of the prominent vines and roots of the design, but also if we consider the human spirit fusion to be stronger than the way the evil spirits manifested in Frontier, then you could consider a set of thick, sprawling vines and roots to be stronger and more powerful than petals. And their hybrid fusion is Sylvanusmon, an excellent fusion of the two designs, having the erupting vines and roots of Vindramon, but with the body and armor of Atismon. Sylvanusmon now uses the helmet it had as Atismon as a shield, and strikes out with a powerfully sharp, barbed vine. Sylvanusmon gets its name from Sylvanus, the Roman deity of woods and uncultivated lands, and a protector of the forest. Then is Teruo and the Spirit of Earth, which he utilizes to become Silicamon, designed by HLR art. HLR was inspired by the progression of rock and minerals, and so began with Silicamon getting its name from, of course, silica, which is naturally quartz and a major constituent of sand. As Grottemon is normally more of a goblin or dwarf-sized body, I love how HLR infused the human element to create this warrior body, but you can still see the entirety of the spirit in there. I especially like how HLR turned the hat into a torso and shorts piece. Silicamon carries a huge sword made of quartz it uses to battle evil. Then the beast spirit of Earth is Nicemon. HLR once again of course took the spirit that normally leads to Gigasmon but built upon the design, viewing the beast spirits as overpowered and wild but still having that human at the core in this instance. Nicemon gets its name from gneiss, a type of metaphoric rock. Nice. Just sound like I'm constantly making a 69 joke. Which could perhaps be viewed as the warrior Silicamon after undergoing immense pressure and given access to the uncontrollable power of the beast spirit of Earth. This pressure, both literal and metaphorical, allowing diamonds to begin forming on the surface of the beast. And then the compromise, the fusion of the human and the beast, turning that pressure from overwhelming and uncontrollable to stabilized and managed, becoming Adamantimon. With the ferocious strength of Nicemon and the warrior's spirit of Silicamon, this hybrid fusion is a fearsome combatant, now fully in control of its own strength, and adorned with diamonds it can now use as weapons and to dazzle its opponents. Adamantimon of course gets its name from adamant or adamantine, a generic name for a very hard material, but also the word adamant, refusing to be persuaded or to change one's mind, which correlates to the steadfast mindset of Adamantimon. And finally is Chiaki, whose spirit evolves with the human spirit of water to become Spellmon, drawn by Dry. Dry based the design on apprentice witches, still learning the basics of fortune telling and clairvoyant magic, as well as elemental control of water. Her big skirt, dress, and hood are a total opposite of Ranamon's skin-tight revealing outfit. I chose the name Spellmon of course to reference its witch and clairvoyant design, but also from the term a spell of rain, or indeed the inverse, a dry spell. Moving over to the beast spirit is Cephalomon. Dry felt like giving this Digimon a squid head was the only logical step, as Calamarimon itself subverted expectations by having the prominent squid head of the spirit become the underside of its form. So Dry reeled it back and put the squid parts in the correct places, but still wanted to keep the humanoid elements present, like with Calamarimon and the overall philosophy of this video, and instead got inspired by the wind spirit line, which remains humanoid but with more beastly features. Cephalomon gets its name from cephalopods, the group of animals that the squid belongs to. Interestingly, octopuses are also cephalopods, and there was a pretty famous supposedly psychic octopus called Paul that was used to reportedly predict 2010 World Cup winners. This psychic cephalopod of course tying back to the design inspiration of Spellmon. And finally is their hybrid fusion, the culmination of both cephalopod and sea witch forms, feeling like a more powerful version of both, which I have dubbed Bruchemon. Dry tried to use elements from both forms, but in a new way. The pearl motif symbolized purity crystallized, as well as keeping the water theme. I chose the name Bruchemon coming from the Catalan word bruxeria, aka witchcraft, as Ranamon's name is Spanish in origin. According to one Catalan tradition, a person who wants to become a witch should go to the seashore, undress completely, and roll around on the sand. So those are our purified Digimon Frontier evil spirits and their hybrid fusion. How'd you like that one? Well, next up, custom rookies for the Digimon Frontier spirits. This was a really fun one. I believe there was also originally a sponsor on this one, but it's been cut out, so enjoy. And yes, we're giving the Digimon Frontier spirits their own custom rookie forms, to go alongside Flamon and Strabimon, the existing rookies for Agunimon and Lobomon. Something that myself and the artists all agreed was that some traits we wanted to include were very important, stemming specifically from the precedent set by Flamon and Strabimon. First is that each form should roughly be the size of the human who uses that spirit to digivolve, or in the case of the evil spirits, just roughly kid-sized. So that means generally stood up and more specifically on two legs. And second, we also agreed that they should still be somewhat bestial, being half human, half Digimon. Feeling like a rookie but having the potential power of a champion, which fits to Flamon's reference book listing, where it is stated to be a half beast, half man when Agunimon lost its power, and that adult class Digimon aren't a match for it. So without further ado, we're going to be beginning with our evil spirits of Ranamon, Arbamon, Grottemon, and Mercurymon. So Ranamon, the Spirit of Water's rookie, is this adorable little froggy baby, Sapomon, drawn by Dry. According to Dry, its kind of reference book listing would be an aquatic beastman Digimon that is very young and inexperienced, but its metal floaties make for good defense and safety in the water. And Dry took inspiration from Ranamon, Calamarimon, and Ancient Myrmimon, but as it is de-digivolved from Ranamon, it needs a little help swimming and fighting. I chose the name Sapomon as it's the Spanish word for toad. Much like its evolution, Ranamon's Rana comes from the Spanish for frog. I also like that it being called Toad evokes the Toad of Mario, another cute little creature. Then we have Arbamon's rookie, and this is the Spirit of Wood, Poppetmon, drawn by Alltrade. Alltrade wanted to find a good compromise between Arbamon and Petaldramon for this depowered rookie, and so settled on a tiny little puppet mech made entirely of wood and piloted by a little lizard. The name Poppetmon was also chosen to kind of be like Puppetmon, which unfortunately is already the name of a Digimon, but also the word poppet, meaning little. Alltrade said that in essence Poppetmon is a lizard piloting an overly complicated wooden mech filled with pulleys, wheels, and treadmills. As Arbamon is based off those old wooden puppet-like mechanisms and the wood spirits are derived from ancient Troyamon, it made sense to Alltrade that ostensibly the weakest form of the Spirit of Wood should be a wooden doll piloted by a small natural creature. And then for Grottemon and the Spirit of Earth, I commissioned some guy 944 to create Coblinmon. This little devious guy of course folds in elements of Grottemon and Gigasmon into a delightfully wicked little package. Its skin is as hard as rock, so can be a deadly weapon all on its own, and takes down enemies and mine tunnels alike with its hard knuckle attack. I really think some guy nailed the cheekiness of this little guy. I can just picture him playing pranks and causing trouble. We settled on the name Coblinmon coming from goblin and the word ko, meaning child in Japanese, but I do also like the name Koboldmon for this little guy for similar reasons. Okay, and now let's talk Mercurymon, the Spirit of Steel, and its rookie form, Apothemon. This little guy, once again by some guy 944, took some inspiration from Vivi from Final Fantasy IX, but also of course the mystical nature of Mercurymon, Sephirothmon, and Ancient Wisemon. This little potion maker and wannabe alchemist carries around 2 vials it can throw at enemies, or just people that are annoying it, that causes explosions when they smash and mix together. Its name, Apothemon, comes from the apothecary, a place that sells medicines, or more specifically in fantasy settings, potion ingredients. I am a huge Final Fantasy fan, as the last video will have taught you, so seeing something that manages to fold in the idea of like Vivi and black mages is fantastic here, especially as you can definitely see that same kind of design thought school in Ancient Wisemon, although it's probably not based on Vivi, it's just a general trend or design style. So the Spirit of Steel being this wonderful little potion maker and reminiscent of a black mage from Final Fantasy, love that. But then to cap off our evil and dark Digimon, we're going over to Koichi and the Spirit of Darkness. And now, of course, unlike the others in this video so far, we actually got 2 distinct champion equivalents for Koichi, both the Corrupted Spirit of Darkness in Duskmon and the regular Spirit of Darkness in Lowemon. So we, of course, had to give Koichi 2 rookies drawn again by Alltrade. And first is Lowemon's depowered form, Carakalmon, the darkness to Strabimon's light. It having a very similar build and design to Strabimon, but being a Digimon tied to the darkness. Alltrade based Carakalmon on the Caracal cat, which lent the design its facial patterns and long fluffy ears. I think Alltrade really nailed the brief here, because with all other Digimon in this video, they don't really have like a matching pair they could align with, but I think it's very important that Lowemon's rookie should align with Lobamon's rookie. We really needed a Digimon that could stand side by side with its brother, and Alltrade delivered. But then shifting over to the Corrupted Spirit of Darkness, Duskmon, its rookie is Lycoimon. The Lykoi is a type of werewolf cat, which works beautifully as an inverse to the Caracal cat that Caracalmon is based on. Alltrade took the design he made for Caracalmon and then broke it down, plunging it into fully corrupted darkness. I love the huge claw here and the fact it hides its face behind its scarf in a very deceptive ninja style way. Alltrade described it as a freak edgelord cat, which I think is a brilliant summation. So now is Beetlemon's rookie form, Senkomon, drawn by Capney. Capney based Senkomon on the concept of the Firefly, aka the lightning bug, with its vest acting as a nod to Firefly larvae, the still growing larvae and the smaller spirit Digimon having a lot in common. But also this child Digimon form is supposed to evoke the feeling of a little kid dressing growing up as a superhero, which would then make Beetlemon the fully realized ideations of that kid, going from little kid in cosplay to a very Kamen Rider-esque looking superhero. I really like the direction Capney went with this one, as we really didn't want the Thunder Spirits rookie to just feel like Ko Kabuterimon 2.0. Senkomon's name comes from Senko meaning flash, and the Ko inside that name also of course references the Ko meaning child in Japanese, like with Coblinmon. And moving over to Tommy's ice spirit Chakmon, we had to have some conversation. Chakmon is already small, to tie into Tommy himself being short, so we knew its rookie had to be even more diminutive, either the exact same height as Tommy or possibly slightly shorter, and so ultimately that rookie is Corymon. Capney also drew this art and based it on the St. Bernard dog, a species that has a strong need to locate and rescue people lost in blizzards. Corymon's hat is a classic winter hat, but also is supposed to be the kind of dog ears that, when it digivolves, would become Chakmon's bear ears. This line then really gets to explore all kinds of animals, specifically snow and ice related animals, from dogs to bears to whatever Korikakumon is, and even a giant ice cream penguin. And this little guy's name Corymon of course references Korikakumon, the dub name, but also Kori means ice and again contains Ko meaning child. And finally is the Spirit of Wind Kazemon's rookie form, Farfalamon, drawn by Dry. Dry envisioned a fairy Digimon that glides around, inspired by Chinese kites, which are usually shaped like butterflies or birds. And an inspired design choice he made that I really love is he gave this Digimon a pixie cut for its haircut. Dry was also inspired heavily by the discarded concept for Digimon Frontier that I covered in a video a year or so back, which saw a very Flamon looking human Digimon hybrid fighting an eagle Digimon human hybrid. Just a lovely touch that caps off this design. The name Farfalamon comes from Farfalla, which is Italian for butterfly, a great name in itself, but also references Zoe having moved to Italy from Japan when she was very young and become fluent in Italian in the process. And that's it. These are our rookies for the rest of the Spirit Digimon in Digimon Frontier, and alongside Flamon and Strabimon, I really think they all work fantastically. Thank you so much, Pascon. It's time to throw it back to Pascon because we created Unified Spirits for the Frontier cast. We are taking very much inspiration, of course, from Emperor/Kaiser Greymon and Magna Garurumon for this. From their overall design, the shoulder pads, even their little bits of flair, like the tassels that you can see on them. We're also not 100% certain if the Unified Spirits are named after the ancient Digimon or not. So our naming convention is some kind of powerful or commanding prefix, like Emperor, Kaiser, Magna, etc., with said ancient spirits or possibly adventure Digimon. Because of Frontier's naming convention, and we are going solely off the JP names just to make things less confusing, there are some names which reference adventure Digimon and some that maybe are just ancient Digimon. For example, Ancient Greymon is the first in Agunimon's kind of line of spirits to be called Greymon in JP. Vitramon, of course, is called Burning Greymon in the dub, but we're not counting that. But for example, Rhino Kabuterimon is of course named after Kabuterimon, but Ancient Beatmon is named after, well, Beatmon. I guess it's named after itself. So I'm going to present different names for a couple of these, just to kind of cover our bases as to whether the Unified Spirits are named after the ancient Digimon, which I think is likely, but potentially also the adventure Digimon. Anyway, we begin with Chief Ikakumon, or Chief Megatheriumon, drawn by Weirdomon. We wanted to keep the themes of Chakmon and Blizzardmon, as well as some of the hairy feel of Ancient Megatheriumon. Because of our uncertainty between the Ancient Spirits or the Adventure Digimon, we kind of split our bets a little bit here, and so while largely based it on the Ice Spirit, did tie in some adventure nods, specifically Digimon in the Gomamon evolution line. So anyway, that's a long walk to a short drink of water to say that Chief Ikakumon, or Chief Megatheriumon, is in my opinion a fantastic combination of all of the Ice Spirits, with those obvious Chakmon and Blizzardmon parts, but also the braided beard feeling very ancient Megatheriumon. And I asked Weirdomon to make the ice gauntlets blue and pink to reference Daipenmon. I know a lot of people don't like Daipenmon, but it is for all intents and purposes the fusion spirit for ice, so I wanted to include it a little bit. With shoulder pads scavenged from other Digimon, but you can even see the little Chakmon teddy bear symbol on its cape. So yes, this is a bit of an homage to Gomamon's evolutions, but at its core is a unification of the Ice Spirits, powered by the other Frontier Spirits too. Then our next unified spirit from the core 5 Frontier kids is Commander Irismon, or Commander Kazemon, drawn by some guy 944. Ancient Irismon is the sub name, Ancient Kazemon is the dub name. Sure. In this instance, the name could also be Commander Phoenixmon, I guess. But some guy 944 truly combined the wind spirit brilliantly, I think. And the blonde hair of Zoe, I think, is a very nice touch, making it feel distinct, but still having those familiar elements from Fairymon, Shutumon, and Jet Sylphimon, making for this almost angelic feeling Valkyrie, a commander of winged hordes. It also, in that respect, does have some nods to Phoenixmon, with the gold elements and bird feet feeling kind of like a callback to Phoenixmon itself. But some guy 944 kept those homages light so that the main focus was the wind spirit. And then it's back to Weirdomon, who designed Ragnar Kabuterimon or Ragnar Beatmon. This unification of the thunder spirit is incredible. I absolutely love the plasma ball shoulder pads and incorporation of Blitzmon, Bulkmon, Rhino Kabuterimon, and Ancient Beatmon, but also with some familiar elements of the main Kabuterimon family. In my opinion, the thunder spirits are very closely tied to the Adventure Kabuterimon line conceptually, so that's why I liked Weirdomon giving Ragnar Beatmon the red Atla Kabuterimon gauntlets. It just felt right. Also very fond of him having the same Thor's hammer as Zudomon, adds that element of connection, and also kind of hints at that knowledge and reliability and thunder spirit and ice spirit connection. Very cool, I think it came out nicely. But what I think that a lot of Frontier fans have wanted to see, because we have the light spirit unified form, is the inverse to that, the darkness. If Koji gets a unified spirit, I think fans always wanted to see what a dark unified spirit would look like for Koichi, and Soru delivered with Lord Sphinxmon, getting its name naturally from ancient Sphinxmon and keeping that more Egyptian theme going. As with the others, Loemon, Kaiser Leomon, and Raihimon are very visible here and influence the design, but I'm very fond of the way Soru also managed to add the eyes and blades etc. of Duskmon and reinterpreted the wings of Velgamon to give Lord Sphinxmon the power of flight. It feels distinct to Magna Garurumon, but very much a great counterpart in my mind. Also, it kind of reminds me a little of Goldar from Power Rangers. Rest in peace, Jason David Frank. So I just can't not love this design. Alright, you've seen how much of the video is left, and yes, of course, your boy Karn EX had to do the supposedly evil spirits too. You know we're gonna full send for Frontier. And so we begin with Regitroiamon, designed by Weirdomon. My thought process for this was that Arbamon and Petaldramon are of course important, but we don't have an official fusion evolution for the evil spirits, though we did design some purified forms for all of them, and the card is on screen right now. And maybe more fusion spirits like that coming soon, maybe, possibly, videos. Anyway, obviously the other element is Ancient Troyamon, so I thought it made sense to more dive into the general idea of Ancient Troy, and not just be shackled to the Trojan horse idea, which really is only present in the ancient form. The rest is just wood throughout the rest of the wood spirits, which is why this Digimon's name is Regitroiamon, coming from the Roman Regi, meaning king, basically a very similar origin to the Regis from Pokemon, which forges a connection to Priam, who was the legendary and last king of Troy during the Trojan War, which is why Regitroiamon is this wise old Ent, with Petaldramon and yes, even Entmon shoulder pads. Covered head to toe in Digicode, this is a very, very wise old tree that I think feels very unique but quite appropriate for the wood spirit. Then the earth spirit's unified form is Gran Volcamon, designed by Soru. Soru very much took the lead on this one, and I think it came out perfectly. Tons of Grossemon and Gigasmon in here, but I think the reinterpretation of Ancient Volcamon, manifesting as almost a sort of walking forge, came out very nicely. Soru really elevated the design of the Earth Spirit here, and I think made something very familiar but also wholly original. I can see this guy being some kind of digital world weaponsmith, forging tons of new weapons for Digimon and maybe even creating a few new legend arms. And our penultimate one, Some Guy 944, came in clutch once again to create another waifu, the unified water spirit, Queen Mermaimon. This is getting hot in here, is it just me? I need some water. I want to die. And yeah, well, Queen Mermaimon is a queen. I think a truly perfect unifier of Ranamon, Calamaramon, and Ancient Mermaimon. While of course very gorgeous,
she is very gorgeous to me!
I think it does still have some of that slight creep factor from Calamaramon. This is the queen of the sea, and damn right should be treated like one. I think Some Guy 944 really nailed the brief here, and gave us a new take on a feminine aquatic Digimon, which would complement all of the water spirits, but also Digimon like Mermaimon, and even Marine Angemon. And then finally, finally is the unified spirit of steel, Prime Wisemon, drawn by HLR Art. HLR wanted to keep the familiar elements of Mercurymon, Sephirothmon, and Ancient Wisemon, but do something new. So he took that very mystical vibe that Sephirothmon and Ancient Wisemon have, and then thought about Mercurymon and the metal Mercury, which led HLR to the discovery that alchemists considered Mercury the prima materia, the stuff needed to make the Philosopher's Stone. And as HLR is a Full Metal Alchemist fan, he really wanted to use that and make Prime Wisemon a headless armor with a cloud of magic. And that cape made of liquid mercury, again to reference Mercurymon, the Philosopher's Stone, and maybe even the T-1000. And because this design feels kind of robotic, the name Prime fits quite well. Being used of course in popular culture for things like Transformers, a Prime Minister is a leader of people, and from the Prima or Prima Materia. So these are all of our brand new Digimon Frontier unified spirits. Make sure you go follow their artists on Twitter, or whatever platform is most popular when this video goes out. And if their commissions are open, please do get a commission from them too. Alright, bringing it home with the last one of these. I feel like this is almost like a VHS compilation back in the day, or like the Twin Peaks re-airings where they had the log lady talking between each episode. Anyway, had to throw it back to American Karn, filming in America, where we created the missing hybrid spirits for Digimon Frontier. It's Frontier time again, you lovely lot. And a cool type of spirit evolution in that show was Fusion Evolution, that created fan favourites like Aldamon, Beowulfmon, and Daipenmon, who is, I'm sure, universally loved, right? But like half of the Digimon Frontier spirits never actually got their own fusion spirit evolution. So together, let's work towards a solution for a spirit evolution. So missing fusion spirit evolutions for those Digimon that don't have any, namely the spirits of Earth, Wood, Water, Steel, and yes, even Corrupted Darkness. Raihimon exists for regular darkness, but I've always been curious what Duskmon and Velgamon might fuse to. And that's kind of our critical conceit here. We want to create Digimon around the ultimate or mega level that feel like a blending of the human and beast spirits. However, it doesn't have to be as super clear cut as cases like Beowulfmon or Raihimon, as Daipenmon, for example, is thematically appropriate for ice, but does not have a ton in common with Chakmon or Blizzardmon. So I really wanted the artists to feel encouraged to experiment, which leads us to our first fusion evolution of the human and beast earth spirits, Lorinomon, drawn by Weirdomon. Lorinomon is the culmination of the grotto, underground, and kind of halfling or dwarf vibes of the spirit of Earth. I gave it the moniker Lorinomon from King Lorin, known as Rey Lorin in Italian, a folklore ruler of a race of dwarves that mined mountains for precious jewels and valuable ores, which feels very appropriate for a fusion of Grottemon and Gigasmon. And while Lorinomon has tons of dwarf-like qualities, he would actually be a very large Digimon similar to the size of Gigasmon, whose name literally means giant. Picture Peter Dinklage in Avengers Infinity War. Like that. Lorinomon is a fair and wise leader, but prone to a volcanic temper that can erupt from his head and match his fiery beard, even wielding a staff-turned-club fashioned from the remnant data of the beast spirit that helped form him. Lorinomon will dispense swift recompense for any perceived wrongdoing. Alright, and then we move right along to the wood spirits, Arbamon and Petaldramon, whose fusion evolution is Dryadramon, drawn by SomeGuy944. I took the name from the Dryad, a mythical race of tree people from Greek mythology, and the Dramon species suffix, as I think this lumbering ent would still be a dragon due to its Petaldramon half. I like how you can still feel the mechanical marionette elements of Arbamon here, but with that Petaldramon side really pushing through like a determined root. A fearsome giant and protector of the forest, the sound of Dryadramon running through the woods is often mistaken for an earthquake. This towering titan is equally gifted at destruction of those who would seek to harm its fellow plant life, as it is gifted at creation, with the ability to terraform barren landscapes and breathe life into dying flowers. And then comes Steel, real Steel, starring Hugh Jackman. The Steel spirit presented a challenge to myself and the artist, SomeGuy944, as to what direction a Mercurymon and Sephirothmon fusion would look like. Quickly, however, the mirrors and intellect of Mercurymon and the godlike nature of Sephirothmon, specifically Sephiroth being the 10 creative forces that God used to create the world in Hebrew mythology, and Sephirothmon's obvious resemblance to the Kabbalah, made it clear to us that the fusion spirit should be the biblically accurate angel, Vulgamon. The name Vulgamon comes from the Vulgate, the Latin version of the Bible, but also the word vulgar. This biblically accurate angel is kind of a lot to observe, a godlike vulgarity that would surely frighten any that looked upon it. I think this also has a nice nod to Lucamon and even Cherubimon from Frontier, which works nicely for the evil spirits in particular. But yeah, wow, super true to the steel spirits and yet wholly new and freaky. This avenging angel flies down from on high to deliver the wrath of God. Which god, however, is uncertain, but Vulgamon obeys its master dutifully and intensely regardless. The lips similar to Sephirothmon right next to the slightly more oval-shaped eyes is even giving me kind of creepy Studio Ghibli vibes, which I am all about. And hey, it wouldn't be the water spirit if it wasn't drawn once again, ironically, by Dry, who fused the human and beast spirits into Tortugamon, a tremendous merging of Ranamon and Calamaramon. Dry said that he thought the spirit line that best handles its fusion is the wind spirit in his opinion, because it represents wind in a different way, while still having recognizable elements from both human and beast spirits. Since the water spirits are represented with different aquatic creatures, frogs, squids, and fish/mermaids, Dry decided to make the fusion spirit a different creature as well. In this case, a sea turtle, or more specifically a Honengame, which is a turtle woman yokai with fortune telling abilities. Tortugamon's name comes from Tortuga, the Spanish for turtle, but also the island of Tortuga was a major center for Caribbean piracy, which ties into the water spirit's more evil nature. Tortugamon is a prideful and strong water-dwelling spirit Digimon. She loves flattery but sees through falsitudes easily due to her ability to predict the future and sense the hearts of humans and Digimon alike, who she will not hesitate to dispose of if they would attempt to court her favor under false pretenses. Her combat skills, beauty, and foresight are extremely high tier. And that leads us finally to the fusion evolution of the corrupted spirits of darkness, Duskmon and Velgamon, forming Grendelmon, designed by Capney. And hey, if you're watching this the day it comes out, yesterday was actually Capney's birthday, so please do go wish them a happy birthday for me in the comments or on their Twitter. Thank you. I chose the name Grendelmon as Velgamon gets its name from Plas Velga, a giant eagle who guarded the underworld in Norse mythology, along with Garn, the namesake of Garurumon, so I wanted to keep a similar theme going. The light fusion spirit Beowulfmon gets its name from the Anglo-Saxon mythical hero Beowulf. So Grendel, one of the main antagonists of that poem, described as a creature of darkness exiled from happiness and accursed of God, the destroyer and devourer of our human kin, yeah, that felt appropriate. I did also consider the Norse theme of Velgamon though, and calling it Lokimon, as Loki was a trickster, shapeshifter, and often stole or borrowed Freya's feathered cloak, which would also help marry the bird elements in this design, but I just think Grendelmon is the slightly better name and cooler lore connection. I think Capney pulled off an absolutely beautiful combination of Duskmon and Velgamon here, and Grendelmon I think really stacks up nicely alongside its purified version Raihimon. The motifs of Duskmon really shine and are combined with Velgamon's avian elements, just creating a super striking Digimon. I'm just very surprised we never saw a corrupted darkness fusion spirit in Digimon Frontier or its associated media, so I think this one, the kind of reason I did this video in the first place, has settled a long-standing desire I had. Grendelmon is an emissary from hell, who will strike from the darkness that it calls its home and defeat any enemy that crosses its path, and sometimes not even an enemy. Alright, but that is it, all of our Frontier fusion spirits. Let me know which is your favourite in the comments below, but of course be respectful, don't be a dick. A lot of effort went into this. I know it's the internet and everyone's mean anyway, but you know, it doesn't hurt to ask, does it? Pascal is right, it doesn't hurt to ask. Thank you all so much for watching this compilation video, I really do appreciate it. Hopefully I've caught you up to speed on all of the Digimon Frontier custom art that we've done on this channel. There's definitely some there that I've seen a lot of requests for a year or more after we did it. Thank you to all the artists. Every artist who has been in these videos will be linked in the description down below to their social media. Thank you all so much for watching. Next week's video will be a new video of entirely new content, and then we may do another compilation the week after that, and then we'll see how these things go into February as we begin to launch out to a full slate of content towards Digimon Con. Thank you to my sovereigns, ZDK14 and Ram McGrayfire, as well as everyone else who supports me over on patreon.com/Karn EX. You can help pay for these custom art videos if you want to do that over there on Patreon, and thank you to my YouTube channel members here on YouTube too. I'll see you all next time when we go digital. Bye bye!